Hi, guys. Welcome back to Cupcakes and Protein Shakes. I am your host, Savannah Sharp. This is my weekly podcast where we give amateur bikini bodybuilders a platform to share their story to the stage. On this week's episode of Cupcakes and Protein Shakes, this is an episode I like to call Bikini Girl Chit Chat. And the bikini girl that I'll be interviewing in the episode, her name is Bailey Anderson. It was a pleasure getting to talk with Bailey about her experiences as an amateur competitor. Bailey has been competing for the past 2 years. It is on Team Fit Body Fusion from dealing with, lots of mental health issues, and she lost an organ along the way. She is an inspiration to myself, and I hope you guys get inspired by her story. I can't wait for you guys to listen, and I want this to be a reminder to those amateurs that are listening that if you work hard enough one day, hopefully we all can go to the pro stage. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Make sure you screenshot this episode and share it with all of your friends to your Instagram story. If you wouldn't mind, take 1 second and leave me a 5-star review. It means a lot to me. I love you guys so much, and let's get into today's episode.
My name's Bailey Anderson. I am born and raised in Arizona. I'm 26, almost 27 years old, and I've been competing for it'll be almost 2 years at the end of this year.
Okay. Well, welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you. Let's start off on a fun note. So it's obviously cupcakes and protein shakes. So tell everyone if you prefer cupcakes or protein shakes first. And then what's your favorite protein shake? And if you were a cupcake, what would you be? Or like your favorite post-show treats?
So definitely cupcakes. I love like anything birthday cake related at all. So I would definitely be like a funfetti cupcake if I were a cupcake for sure.
Okay.
um,
Awesome.
Protein shakes. I don't have a gallbladder, fun fact. So I don't do dairy a whole bunch.
Okay.
So I do like this bone broth protein shake that I do that's really good for my gut.
Do you want to expand on why you don't have a gallbladder?
Sure. Yeah. So after college, pretty much everything that I was eating was making me sick, like to the point where I didn't really know what was okay and okay for me to eat. So I had actually just started dating the guy I'm now engaged to. So he actually was out with some friends, and I had to call him because I was in excruciating pain and really, really sick out of the blue. And so he ended up having to take me to the hospital. And they did a CT scan, and they were like, yeah, that should come out like right now. But I called my mom. It was like 6 a.m. on a Sunday. I was like, good morning. So they want to remove an organ from me. And so we went and got a second opinion, and they were like, yeah, it should definitely come out. And I had surgery that Friday. So I had like a bunch of gallstones, and my surgeon had a sense of humor. I had so many that he literally took my gallstones and formed the letter B out of them.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it was crazy. And my fiance took really good care of me. And it was like a couple of weeks where I like couldn't really do too much on my own.
Yeah.
But I'm able to pretty much eat more or less what I want now. I can't have any gluten. I have a gluten allergy, and I don't digest soy very well. And without the gallbladder, I have to be careful with my fats, but all over much better than we were doing pre gallbladder removal.
How recent was that?
So that was like 3.5 years ago now.
Okay. So like before your fitness journey?
It was kind of in the middle of my fitness journey. I had started working out, but I hadn't yet started competing.
Okay. So let's get into fitness journey. So when do you technically think like your fitness journey started?
So, I mean, I grew up playing sports. I horseback rode competitively up until college. Um, And then in college, college is expensive, and horseback riding, if you're at all familiar with that, is a very expensive hobby.
Yeah.
So just between the two, it was kind of one or the other. And, you can always literally get back in the saddle. So I ended up, going to ASU, Arizona State, and kind of didn't really have, I didn't have my sport anymore. So I started going to the gym. And honestly, it was initially more of a mental, emotional health thing than it was a physical. The physical benefits are obviously great, and I got addicted to those as well. But initially, while I was in college, it was really my biggest stress management thing. So I started doing that my junior year of college. And then, so that would have been 7 years ago now. So been working out and lifting fairly consistently for about the last 7 years, and then started competing and started my first prep in January of 2020.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So I started my competing journey when I was a junior in college too. So it's been a long time on the road. So how many shows have you done up until this today?
So I've done 4 shows. I've
Okay.
done 3 regional. My first one was in Sin City, in August of 2020. And then most recently, I did my first national show. I did USA's, which is here in Arizona this year.
Okay. So walk me through placing wise, like each one. Just
Yeah. So I only did novice and true novice my first show. I got first in my true novice A class, and then second in my novice class. Then I did my first show with my current coach. I'm on Fit Body Fusion, and my coach is Ashlyn Little. She and I started prepping together this past fall of 2020, so right after Thanksgiving. She and I did Wings of Strength Valley in the Sun Championships in May. I got first in open and second in novice. Then we did the Arizona Open at the start of July. I got first in novice and second in open. And then at USA's, I was in third callouts.
right. So on your first show, what was the reasoning behind not doing open?
So honestly, I was in quite a financial pinch. I was at the time paying for some group training, coaching with the coach that I previously had, and just didn't have the finances really ready to do anymore. I actually did my first show and my first prep with one of my best friends from junior high, and she was having a little bit of financial trouble and wasn't sure she was going to be able to continue. So that year for her birthday, actually ended up, she's one of 4, excuse me, girls in her family. So me, her sisters, all kind of contributed to pay for the rest of her coaching so that she could end up competing in that Vegas show that we did together. So just between that, and I'm a personal trainer, I was at the time at LA Fitness and just not making enough money. And so it was just a financial thing.
Okay. So do you want to jump into finances of competing just to kind of like educate some newcomers that maybe you would give them advice, maybe why to start competing, why not to start competing because of finances? And then if you have any tips of how to save some coin while you're competing.
Yeah, definitely. So I think it's definitely smart to plan, out exactly what show, whether it be a regional show or a national show, because obviously nationals will be more expensive on its own, is really, really important. You need to know exactly what you're going to be spending your money on, whether if you're going to be traveling, hotel, all that kind of stuff. And then making sure, you have all your ducks in a row, for lack of better words, just beforehand, because once you're in it, it's really hard to be able to not to just have to feel like you're not able to do everything that you want. I was definitely bummed that I wasn't able to do the open class at my first show. But I definitely think that, if you plan appropriately, you can do it. As far as costs of competing, we have the show, we have the tan, we have the suits, we have the jewelry, we have the shoes. It's the whole thing. So it is definitely a costly sport. It pales in comparison to, horses, but it is still definitely a good chunk of change that you're going to be prepared to spend. Um, with shoes and jewelry, I've been able to use the same shoes and the same jewelry. One of my earrings broke, so I did have to replace those. But I've used those in the same shows. I personally like to do Protan, so I bought that whole kit at the start of my season, and it lasted me all the way through. So I was able to save some money, not having to do a spray tan $150 plus.
Yeah.
So that was really nice to save there. I was fortunate enough to have some help with my first suit that I bought from a friend of mine that was really excited for me and wanted to see me do well. But my coach that I previously had didn't really help me with the shape of the suit. So this year I ended up, when I switched coaches, she was like, yeah, we should probably get one that suits your glutes better, because the one I had kind of cut it off and made them look a little more square. So she was able to help me get another suit. But yeah, I was able to use the same tan all season, or tanning supplies rather, all season long. The same shoes, same jewelry. The suit I'm gonna keep using until that thing freaking breaks. And then I personally, I have a neighbor actually who helps me with some makeup, so that was huge. We did kind of a trade. I'm going to give her some personal training sessions in exchange for her having done my makeup for me. So that saved me there. If you have any, friends who can do stage makeup, because that's obviously different than
Yeah.
everyday makeup. But that helped a lot. And yeah.
Hey, that gives a lot of tips because it is expensive. It's not a sport that you can just casually do and like, oh yeah, it's fine. Because it is an investment. It's investment for like your health long term wise. Because once you start competing, unfortunately, you can never unlearn macros and cardio and all of those different things. So, are you someone that uses macros or meal plans?
Macros all day long, all
Okay.
day. Totally
Okay.
team macros.
And then why?
So, my previous coach, I had me on a meal plan, and you know, 2020 being what it was,
Yeah.
all shows were getting canceled, everything was getting pushed back. So I ended up dieting for almost 9 full months
Yeah.
on a very strict, very bland meal plan. And I do have a history of bulimia and anorexia when I was in high school. And I just felt so restricted, that afterwards it really led to a lot of binging and just not a very healthy relationship with food. So I do tend, now that I do, strictly macros, I usually end up kind of putting myself on a meal plan and eating more or less the same things every day. But just knowing that I have the flexibility to make any changes that I want, rice or potatoes or chicken or turkey or whatever the case may be, just really makes it a lot less mentally stressful for me personally.
Yeah, that's what I've heard, especially like if because your relationship with food changes so much, like from when you're a non-competitor to when you are a competitor. And so,
No
how do
kidding.
you think your relationship with food has improved since competing?
So I definitely think now I'm more aware of how my body uses my food. I've loved food my whole life. I always have enjoyed cooking. And, with the gallbladder thing, there are a lot of gluten free options now. But when that initially started, I mean, girl, I couldn't eat gluten, dairy, soy, egg yolk, white potatoes, which, if you know anything about gluten free products, a lot of them use white potatoes. For a while there, I couldn't have peppers, berries, bananas, apples, avocado. It was just like this whole giant list of things that I couldn't, my body couldn't handle because I didn't know I was, sick. And so I took a lot of time learning how to make a lot of foods taste good that also made me feel good, which was the first time I kind of, ate for fuel, versus just eating for pleasure and, to survive. um, so I definitely feel like now I know what kind of foods my body digests, what makes me feel strong, what makes me feel like I actually can push myself in the gym and like I actually have energy to get through my day. Because my energy, like, I think that gallbladder and I, you know, started going at it probably when I was still in high school. So I probably was, not really absorbing any of my nutrients or anything, from the time I was probably like 16 or 17 until I had that removed at 23. And, the gallbladder removal just changed everything. And, I learned how to cook, like I was saying, just a bunch of foods that I enjoyed, but also made me feel good. And, just knowing the difference between something that's actually going to allow myself to not only feel good, but build muscle and have energy versus just putting something in my mouth because I know I need to eat something and just because it tastes good.
Yeah. So in high school, why do you think where did the bulimia come from?
um So I was an early bloomer. I
Okay.
was the first girl in my grade to wear a bra, get her period, anything like that. So I was bullied just freaking ruthlessly in junior high and in high school. Um, and thunder thighs, and I would wear a bikini. I remember one time to an eighth grade party, like, not I was in eighth grade, I was 14. It wasn't like it was super cheeky or
Right.
whatever, but it was a bikini. And all the girls that I was quote unquote friends with were like, put those melons away, and just ripped me to shreds. I remember I posted a picture on Facebook, on a family vacation. I was with my dad and my little sister at the time, and I was again wearing a bikini, and they just commented and ripped me apart, making me feel ashamed and like I was doing something wrong. And I remember my cousin that's we're really close in age, and my older sister, just went on and like ripped him right back. And so I think a lot of it came from that. When I got later into high school, it was a combination of, what so desperately wanting to be accepted and just loved. Um, Plus, I think the fact that I was sick, I was pretty fluffy. I'm only 5'1.5", and I was getting up to almost 140 pounds. I usually sit anywhere between like 110 to
Yeah.
117 ish. And so it was a lot on my little frame. And um, yeah, it was just, I think it was, just mostly wanting so badly to be accepted. And, I'd been made fun of for so many years. And I was just like, well, if I can be like those girls, they're not getting made fun of, then maybe that would bring me some happiness. And obviously it just spiraled into more depression and into worse eating habits. And I ended up actually uh, being sent, pulled out of high school, didn't tell anybody but the friend that I did my first competition with, actually, where I was going, literally kind of dropped off the face of the earth. I found out later when I came back that people had been saying, oh, yeah, she went to rehab. Oh, yeah, she got pregnant. Or I actually found out that people thought that I died. So it was a really, really rough time. I don't think there's any amount of money you could pay me to go back to high school. Some people have this great experience when they're in high school, and I just didn't have that. And then when I came back, I went to a different school, you know, kind of got back on my feet, but it wasn't really until college that I kind of got on my feet and really started feeling secure in myself. I went to a bunch of therapy, which is, I still am in contact with my therapist from high school. She's awesome. I love her. Um, and I just think a lot of it came from just really ultimately wanting so badly to be accepted.
Yeah. Well, I have to take a second to just to say, look at you now. And I hope that you have like you've surpassed all the haters. They probably are the same people now commenting on your posts. How do you look like that? You're so beautiful. Like, I wish I could look like you. So at the end of the day, middle fingers up all the way to the haters. And like, you came out on the other end. So you should be so proud of like how you got here. And that's why I absolutely love this sport, because there's so many good things that come out of it, because it does just help you like, look strong on the outside, but it does help you do the inner work. And how have you made mental health like a priority for your own prep, or like how do you stay motivated on maybe some hard days during your competition preps?
So for me, safeguarding my mental health is huge. I'm someone whose body does not respond well to stress. And if I allow myself to be stressed out, and I'm in a prep, I will like no doubt, see my numbers go in the direction I do not want them to go. So meditation is something that I utilize and really try to be good at every day, sometimes twice a day. I really like this app called Chopra. He does a lot of like guided meditations, and I'm very ADHD, so having a little bit of guidance in there is really really helpful for me. um, I also am really big, especially the closer I get to a competition, on journaling and manifesting, doing some affirmations. I have some affirmation cards that I'll draw sometimes and just kind of write that over and over and over again. The first time I competed, I like think I took up probably 4 or 5 pages with just my little affirmation saying, I'm gonna nail my routine. I will, be successful, and I will have fun. That was the biggest one that I really wanted to make sure, because that first prep was really just such a struggle. I really wanted to make sure that I have fun. And that's one that I've carried with me to every competition that I've done so far. Is I want to, yes, of course, we all want to do well, but it's so important to me after how miserable the entire, not, I mean, not entire, but for the most part, it was just a really, really, really tough prep all over, what, like all across the board. And so to me, it's really important that, yes, I stay healthy and I go in the, go in the direction that my coach and I want to go in. But I also need to make sure that I'm enjoying this, because the second that I'm not, that's a problem.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm glad that you figured that out, because it took me a couple shows to realize like this isn't this is fun. Like this is, at the end of the day, you can try to make it a career, but it is still a hobby until you get to that level. But at the end of the day, like it's, if you're not having fun in the gym, if you're not having fun eating like healthy foods, even though they're not like super fun, like you don't really enjoy them all the way and you don't enjoy your show day, then you need to stop competing. Like 100%, if you're listening to this and you are just like dreading your workouts and dreading your meals and dreading your show day and everything about it, like this is not for you. Like you have to realize, I have so much fun. I literally have so much fun. It's like a whole thing. It's like not just one day. It's like 365 days. I get to wake up and like kick ass every day. I'm like, all right, I feel good. I'm going to drink my water. I'm going to do all these goals like throughout the entire year. So I think that's a great tip, is just to make sure that you're having fun throughout the entire process. I do want to talk about your relationship between you and your coach, because I feel like you might have some similarities as far as like size and like prepping and things like that. So what is your guys' relationship like, and how has she helped you like bring your best?
I love my coach so much. I just can't rave about her enough. She always seems to know exactly what I need to hear. We started a little bit after, I think it was right after Thanksgiving last November. And, so we did a little bit of a growing season. She was feeding me quite a bit. And then we jumped into a prep starting in February. And I didn't learn, going back a little bit, I didn't learn how to pose or get any sort of instruction at all until 4 weeks out from my first show. Yeah,
Um,
I was asking, like, hey, shouldn't I be learning, like, how to do this? I know it's like hard. And it was just like, no, you can wait. And again, just wasn't in the financial position to go and grab like another posing coach. So when I started with Ashlyn, we FaceTime once a week to do a posing session. I do check-ins every week. I send her photos, and she, in my check-in, asks about everything. She really makes sure that across the board I'm really taking care of my mental state, my sleep, my digestion, which has been, a big thing for me to make sure that I stay on, healthy with, where I'm at in like my cycle, my sleep, my energy levels, how strong I'm feeling in the gym. And she really doesn't just, she trusts me. I think that's the biggest difference between her and my previous coach, because I do have, I have had these issues with my digestion. And so I know my GI system very, very well and what it can and cannot handle. And, being a trainer myself and having worked out for so many years, I do have a decent idea of what my body should and should not be doing. And there were a few things that I would question, both food and workout wise. And, my first coach would basically just be like, no, it's fine. Just trust the process. And it wasn't fine. By the end of my first show, I could not lunge, squat, step up, leg press, extend. The sole movements my lower body could handle were leg curls, hip thrusts, and any sort of, good morning or deadlift. That was it. I was so completely, I never went and like got it checked out, but I just like, I would walk around and my knee would collapse.
Oh my
And,
God.
there were some movements that we were doing where our knees were way over our toes and, carrying quite a bit of weight. And I would, kind of question it and just wouldn't be listened to at all. So when I had my phone consultation with Ashlyn, I was like, I told her basically, I have a decent idea of what my body can do. And she was like, yeah, I mean, you know your body better than I do, especially when we were first getting started. And so I feel like the fact that she actually listens to me, like, yes, she's my coach. She, takes the wheel, but she also checks in with me and makes sure that I am still feeling good and I'm satiated. And, yeah, there are times in prep when you're hungry, but I wasn't stuck to only having freaking tilapia and rice for every single meal. I won't eat tilapia. That was one other question that I asked her. I was like, are you going to make me eat tilapia during peak week? And she was like, no, you do not have to if you do not want to. And so just having a little bit more flexibility and having her trust has really made such a huge difference. And yes, you are right. We are very similar in size. She's actually a little smaller than I am. I'm a little taller and a little wider than she is up top, but she has a very similar shape. And so that's why she was able to help me, with that suit, which I'm obsessed with. And she just really knows, she really knows her stuff. And she really, I don't feel like she is just like telling me to trust the process. She's actually taking what I say into account, which means a lot.
Yeah, it does. Because like I hear horror stories so many times of just like I feel so bad because there's such good coaches out there. There's so many, and there's girls out there that are getting coached by terrible coaches and paying way too much, way too much. And it's really sad. So if you're listening to this and you're like, huh, my coach is doing some questionable things, like just have a consultation with someone and just be like, hey, I want to run a few things by. This is what's currently going on. Like, is this okay? Because a lot of people don't necessarily talk about the details of prep because, at times it does get, borderline unhealthy-ish towards the end. But for the most part, like you shouldn't be to the point where you can't do certain exercises, especially in physique sport. Like throughout your entire prep, even leading into like peak week, you should still have enough energy to get through like a full workout and be hungry and be a little tired, but like be okay to, still lift pretty heavy. So
Absolutely.
that's a huge thing, like especially having the right coaching, and you can kind of tell like your physique is obviously looking on point and you're able to go to
Thank you.
nationals. So what was that step up from regional shows to nationals like? Was it scary for you? Were you excited about it?
I was extremely excited. And So it was here in Arizona, at the Arizona Grand, which is a beautiful resort here. And the second I walked into the room, outside of like the grand ballroom
Yeah.
or whatever it was called, at the second I saw that stage, I felt my heart just like skip a beat, and I got extremely nervous. I obviously it was my first national show, so that huge stage was just super intimidating. And those girls, I mean,
I know.
every single person there looked so phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it was just like, not to say that everyone at a regional show does not, but
Right.
dang, I was like,
Yes.
I couldn't tell you who was going to win their pro card, like everybody just looked jacked and lean, and everyone was so friendly. Um, and so I feel like for me, the biggest change was the stage itself, and the size. And I did let myself get a little intimidated by that. So just, I think the more stage time you get under your belt, obviously, the more comfortable you're going to be. I was the most comfortable I had been yet at the regional show that I had done a couple weeks before nationals. So I know it's headed in the right direction. I feel like that first one is just the first time jitters,
Yeah.
just like, your first regional show. It's just kind of one of those things that, okay, got this one out of the way. Now I can, kind of
Yeah.
get out of my own head and really, really bring it next year.
Good. So are you in your improvement season now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I
Okay.
am. We knew this too going into nationals, that I wanted to reverse pretty much regardless of how it
Right.
went. My older sister, who I'm extremely close to, is getting married this November. So she is having her bachelorette in October. My birthday is also in October. So I knew that I wanted to be able to have some more flexibility and a little more freedom. I'm still probably going to bring a couple of Tupperware with
Right.
me to the bachelorette, of course. But I didn't want to have to be, bringing my Tupperware with us to the restaurants and everything like that. Um, my sister has quite literally saved my life. Like I said, she came to my rescue when the girls were vicious back in junior high and in high school. And so it was just something that was really important to me, that I make sure that I am able to enjoy that with her, because I mean, in theory, right? You only get married once. So
Right.
I wanted to
Hopefully.
make sure that I was just done and had the freedom for that.
Yeah. But see, that's kind of I think that's a big thing too. Like a lot of first time or newer competitors make the mistake of just trying to prep forever back to back to back to back to keep improving, which is in reality it's just you can only get leaner. You can't necessarily make the improvements. So if you're
Right.
getting the feedback of you need to grow here, you need to be bigger, that means you got to do it with some extra calories. So
Yes, ma'am.
unless they're like you're really, really close. So what was your feedback?
So Sandy came back. I was cramping so bad. I looked at my stage shots, and I pose on my left side, and my left lat was cramping so stinking bad. So I looked at my stage shots, and I was automatically like, I'm looking pretty, narrow on the top, because I couldn't really open up through there. But she specifically said just to tighten up a little bit more, and she wanted to see some more rounder glutes, which was what both Ashlyn and I thought was going to be my feedback coming in. For me personally, the hardest thing, and I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I was so completely injured that I couldn't do anything really lower body related for a while. My hamstrings, they are the last thing
Yep.
to come out and to be popping. And so we knew going in that was my weakest link. And then I did not have a great peak week right before. Both me and my boyfriend, or my fiance, still adjusting to that title. Both fairly recently got into new jobs and had a little bit of extra stress thrown at us. And so, like I said, it's really important for me to try and protect my headspace. And then, I mean, at a certain point, things happen.
Yeah.
And not everything can always go exactly to plan. And I, you know, didn't protect my headspace as much as I should have.
Yeah.
And my Monday check-ins were great. on Tuesday morning, I was 3 or 4 pounds heavier.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I definitely tend to hold, when I hold water and I hold stress, it through my midsection. And so I knew between my hamstrings were not where they needed to be, combined with the stress that I allowed kind of to take over that during that peak week. I kind of knew going in that those were going to be my two feedbacks. And
Yep.
yeah, Sandy just confirmed it, just a little tighter and rounder glutes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so hard because you try not to get emotionally attached to what happens, but you're like, I didn't work this hard just for like uncontrollable, like your body's gonna do what it wants. It's so frustrating because you have to fully be in sync the entire time, like even to literally minutes before you're on stage. Like if you stress yourself out so hard, your body is gonna show it. So
Absolutely.
you have to have that like mindset and mental health and whatever you need to do just so you can figure out, okay, last peak week I gained 3 or 4 pounds because I was stressed out. What I'm not going to do is this XYZ. And then you just try it again, try it again. So that's super exciting. So going into your improvement season, what is your new focus? Because obviously, like shreds fade. So how has your post show blues experience been? Are you doing all right? Like, what's the new focus for you?
It's been a little bit rough. I just went and did a lift with one of my teammates who did get her pro card at USA's. So that was super cool to be there for her. But we were talking, and it's just been a little bit hard because we both don't know exactly when we're going to do our next show. So there's been a little bit of, you know, overdoing my foods. I made the mistake of buying a few too many post show treats. Normally what I had done was buy like just the single protein bars or like the single serving, whatever. Your girl went and got like a couple boxes of things. And
Mhm.
so I definitely have gone over a little bit, but it pales in comparison to the binge that I had after my initial show.
Yeah.
Um, because I do feel like I have so much to look forward to. As far as, being bummed, I haven't really felt that too much. I competed Friday, Saturday USA's, and then went on my family vacation the day afterwards and got engaged on Monday. So, I mean, I feel like just the circumstances really kind of set me up for success in
Right.
that way. My parents had driven, we go to San Diego every year, and my parents had driven, so I like sent my mom with like a bunch of chicken before she left, so I was still able to eat, you know, fairly on track immediately after my show. But I'm definitely the kind of person who, if it is in front of me, I will probably be eating it.
Right.
If it's not in my house, I'm usually pretty good about not going and just getting, for lack of better words, a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
But if I go to the store and I buy a box of protein bars or protein cookies, those are usually my big splurge
Mhm.
item. Either that or I do like a granola a lot. But if I have just a bunch of it, I find myself just, I'll go to the pantry, just have a bite, and then I'm walking around, oh, I'm passing my pantry, just have a bite here and there, and then before I know it, the whole stinking bag is gone.
Yeah. Oh, it
um,
happens to me too. Oh, don't be ashamed. Like it happens. I'll be like, it's a dull ache of hunger. It's like I feel like I'm never fully satisfied. I don't know why. It's like I don't know. I'm like, oh, I could eat. I could eat. Like at all times, I'm like, yeah, I'm not technically hungry, but I could have some. And then you're in your mind, you're like, it's a protein bar. It's healthy. And then
yeah, right, exactly,
you're like,
exactly.
it's
So
healthy, and you're like, huh, interesting. How did those all go away?
exactly, they just poof.
Yep.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah. But it's interesting though, just because like we all have those different items that mine has been peanut butter for the life of me. If when I'm prepping, it's individual portions only or not at all. You can't jumbo size bags are not allowed. We every single time it's just like if I get any family size packaging, immediately at my house, it's weighed and baggies and portioned out. That way
Yes.
you have to feel bad when you're like, eating like 3 baggies. And if you eat like an
Yes.
entire 1 box of like something, you're like, oh, it's only 1 box. But if you're like, okay, individually portions, and you know the calories in each portion bag, you're adding it up in your head, and you're like, oh, I probably shouldn't. So just some tips. If you can't trust yourself with it, just don't eat it, don't buy it, don't think about it, or just try to weigh it out. So
Yes, exactly. No, that's so huge. I definitely do the weighing out stuff if I like, more so when I haven't done it since my last show quite as much yet. But historically I do the exact same thing, and
yeah,
it makes it all using those little tricks, like, you're going to feel bad, if you do this, and the feeling of going over your macros, and that feeling of just being like, you know, I'm not going to undo this. I'm not going to, make
right.
myself throw up. I can't undo what I did. And now I'm all distended and just uncomfortable. I remember the first time I really did that after my first show, I tried to like sit up in my bed, and I literally couldn't sit up. I literally felt like a roly poly. I just
Mhm.
kind of rolled over. And I remember it was in Vegas, so we had gone to like one of the hotels that had a
Yeah,
nice pool. I do not remember which one it was. And the girls wanted to take some pictures. And I was like, it was literally the day we competed. And I was like, looked down at my stomach, like, no, I'm good. I'll take them for you. But
yeah,
it's not worth those few seconds of pleasure to have the hours, days, maybe even like a week of beating yourself up. Because something I'm working on. I am really, really hard on myself, and that's Ashlyn's been really, really helpful with that as well. But it just, if I the feeling of when you wake up in the morning after a binge
yeah,
versus after you've stayed strong and stuck to your plan, I just infinitely prefer waking up feeling like a little badass,
yeah,
honestly, than feeling guilty and ashamed, and
yeah,
all of those negative things that come after you go so deep, so go off the deep end.
yeah. I mean, it happens to me. It's happened to me. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was not a fun time. And because like you know what you're doing. It's not like you don't know what you're doing and you didn't know better, or you like are blacked out. Like when you're eating it, you're like consciously making the decision and like fully have convinced yourself it's fine. Like in those few seconds, you're like, I'm so hungry. I've been training so hard. I deserve this. Like it's not going to be that big of a deal. The skill probably won't go up too much. Like my coach wouldn't even notice. Those type of things start to come because your body is trying to keep you alive. So some of it is comes from being in a severe calorie deficit. But then like when you literally get that bloat, like that distended gut, like it's so uncomfortable. It sucks. Like you still have abs, but then it's just like this little like literally pregnant looking belly. You're like, okay,
Yes.
it's like okay, there's the abs. I see them. You're shredded everywhere, and then it's just like a little poochy thing, and it's hard, and it doesn't look cute, and you can't put it away. You can't
Nope.
vacuum it down. There's like no fixing it, and it sucks too because like normally like it's so many calories you couldn't even do the cardio if you wanted to. So
Yes.
what I try to do, like, so if you're in that situation, like I try this thing. So if I'm thinking about it, if like I'm like binge time, it's time to eat. Like, all right, I try to set barriers. So I started writing notes in my cabinets. I started writing things on top of jars of like how many minutes of cardio a serving would equal. I started doing all of these things, just anything I could do to like prevent. I got locks for my cabinets. I told my boyfriend, I said, you hide this peanut butter jar. I'm only allowed to have it at this time. I did anything I could to keep, I duct tape a box of cookies, post show cookies, the entire box. There were 6 those huge cookies, the whatever, the huge ones. And
Yes.
I duct taped the whole box, put it in my freezer, duct taped it, threw it in there, wrote on it, do not eat till after your show. Like had to do all these different things. And it's whatever you need to do to get it done because it's so much rewarding, like stepping on stage knowing that you crushed it, and like waking up and like knowing when you step on the scale, you know it's probably going to go down, or like you know that even if it is up, it doesn't even matter because you worked so hard and you were on your diet for so many days and like you hit your macros or you hit this. So it's just kind of like creating a barrier, because if you it starts to become a habit, like you can always reverse engineer it, but got to figure out like why is it happening. Is it free food? Is it someone's birthday? Like are you experience like are you sad because of like I don't know, other life things? Are you stressed? It's a lot of times it's like stress related, so maybe you need some stress strategies. But as far
Absolutely.
as like competing goes, with the training, what did your split look like? Did you guys do 6 days a week, 7 days a week? What was cardio, maybe at the high end?
So, both in prep and in my off season, I have 6 lifts a week. I was doing in prep 3 lower body days and 3 upper body days. 2 of the lower body days were glute hamstring, and then one was a little more quad focused. I had a pull day, a press day, and then a shoulder day. Um, Cardio, whew, that shit got high, girl. Let me tell you. To bring out my hamstrings,
Yeah,
we were doing 20 rounds of sprints,
yeah,
3 times a week,
yeah.
with 45 minutes steady state stairs afterwards. On the other 3 days, it was 75 minutes on the stairs. So dying by the end of that, definitely. Um, Currently, 3 lower body days, pretty much all glute hamstring. I am pretty quad dominant as it is. I have a press day, a back and bi, and then a shoulder. So my split hasn't changed too much, other than less quad, more glute hamstring. And then I'm only right now doing 4 days of cardio for 35 minutes, either on the treadmill at an incline, which is not my jam. So I usually am still on the Stairmaster. And I really think that, you know, all of it comes down to, food, cardio, train, all of it really comes down to, and I tell my clients this same thing because they're like, I don't want to, do whatever today. And I have those days too, where I think we all do. But I think there's something to be said for being disciplined versus being motivated.
Yeah.
Because there are days where I'm super motivated and super excited, and even though I cardio is just not my favorite thing anyway, it's never been my strong suit. And so even on those days where I like really do want to do cardio, it's just being disciplined and doing it the entire time, because there's going to be a day where you wake up and you're like, I do not want to do this, whether it's because you're tired or you're
Yeah.
just, there's something else you would rather be freaking doing with your time. It's just doing it anyways, because motivation is such a fleeting thing. That will come and that will go so often throughout a prep and improvement season, just throughout everything. And I really feel like it's discipline that is the determining factor. I go to a gym just a mile from here, a bodybuilder gym called Diesel, and one of their slogans that they put on their shirts is discipline determines destiny. And I think it's one of my favorite freaking like little sayings ever, because I think it's just so accurate, because it's just what, even if you're not motivated to do it, you're going to fucking do it anyway because you
Yeah.
have these goals.
Yeah, so I feel like that's the biggest thing too, because everyone's like, how do you stay motivated? Like, I wish I was as motivated as you. And I absolutely hate it. I'm like, I
Mm-hmm.
am motivated. And on a good week, like maybe one glute day and one upper body day, I'm like, whoa, if I can get 2 solid, awesome, motivated, those workouts where it's like everything goes right, you're crushing it, you're hitting PRs, you got good energy. And the rest of the week, I'm riding the struggle bus. I'm probably sore from the other workouts. I'm probably hungry, or I'm tired because I stayed up a little too late, or I
Mm-hmm.
got up early, or who knows, life is just stressful and you're just thinking about other stuff, or you're just not able to focus for whatever because you got things going on after the gym or whatever, relationship, maybe you and your significant other had a fight. I don't know. There's like so many like that the list of items that could affect your focus in your workout is endless. But I think the biggest thing that I have taught myself is the minute that I walk through those doors in the gym, like that is 1 hour, sometimes longer, depending on, what we're doing that day. But it's like that is your time. Like turn your phone off, turn the gram off. Like if you need to take pictures, do it after your workout or before, depending, we still got to flex on the gram. But anyway, it's like that time that you're spending is it adds up. So like if you're just motivated, you're waiting for your motivation to work out, like you're probably going to work out very rarely. But it's just
Yeah.
discipline. Like set a timer on your phone. Like I'm going to work out this time tomorrow, no matter what happens, no matter how I feel, no matter how tired. Even your worst workouts are still better than a workout that you didn't do. So just like
Absolutely.
keep crushing it. And if you guys are listening to this and you're like, okay, well, that makes sense. It's like, you just have to do it. If
Yes.
you have a goal, you just do it. You don't let your excuses win. At the end of the day, it's all yourself. Like you can be the one that pushes you towards your goals or further back. So, and like I've really just started to realize like there's no blaming here. If I don't place well, if I don't prep well, it's not my coach's fault. It is on me. Was there more I could have done? Probably. There's always more. There's always changes. And this sport definitely makes you be your best, because once you show up to nationals, it is a slap in the face when you see how other girls look, how many other girls are just as disciplined as you, is just as motivated, just as lean, just as everything. And you're like, wow, I'm not the only one, so it's kind of crazy, like how there's just so many competitors. So to stand out, to get the pro card, to do all these different things, like you seriously have to crush it like forever, even in your improvement season. So I feel like that's it's the discipline is the best thing that you can learn through like competing, and it can carry over to different aspects of your life as well. um yeah, so that's kind of what I think. When you are when you said earlier that you have done, what you said, 4 shows.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So what was your goals going into nationals? Was it just to get the experience? Were you trying to hit first call outs? Was it top 10? Like, what did you set for yourself?
So Ashlyn laughed, like literally laughed out loud when I told her this. I was like, my goal, my only goal at nationals, because I knew, like I said, going in, and this was before I had my peak week. This was like, a few weeks out. I was like, obviously, first call outs, top 10 would be great.
Right.
Yeah, sure. But my only goal was, because every time that I have competed so far, I have either made like a small misstep in my routine. I have a picture that has a really weird face. That's a big one for me. I tried to work on my facial expressions and not doing anything weird. So I really wanted to step off of stage, really having been just proud of my entire routine, feeling like I freaking nailed it, and to not get dead last. That was honestly my only expectation, and anything beyond that was just going to be a bonus. And so I got third call outs. I was like the third 16 or whatever, so not like the bottom, but pretty much at the bottom. And I've heard so many people on like podcasts and just talking to other people talk about how they like black out on stage and have no idea what happened. This was the first show that actually happened to me. I got off stage and I was kind of like, wait, what just happened?
Yeah.
And so that was the first time that had happened. And yeah, it was just kind of a trip. So there's still a couple of things with my posing routine that I want to adjust. I mean, everybody is constantly evolving in their posing, but I did not make any weird faces in any of my pictures. I was really happy about that. My side transition pose, it was actually the first picture out of all the shows that I've done that I actually liked that one instead of anything just from my front pose. So I would say that I accomplished my goal, and we knew that we were going in to get feedback because I had done, well at the regional level. It was time to see how we did at the national level. And now we know what we need to work on. And then hopefully we can come back and be competitive at the national level like next year.
Okay. What is your goals in the sport?
I would love ultimately to get my pro card. That's the next goal, do well enough at a national show to earn that pro card. And I mean, ultimately, I would love to go, just like any competitor, and I think in our sport, I would love to go to the Olympia someday. I would just about die to grace that giant stage. I'm sure I would be, again, intimidated a little bit, but hopefully at that point, I could be, secure enough and have enough stage time that I'm not quite so nervous. So ultimately, well enough at a national show to get that pro card, and then hopefully someday the Olympia.
That's awesome. I love it. I love that you're not scared to say it, because I feel like there's so many competitors that are scared to say big goals out loud because they don't want to be cocky or whatever they think it might be. I think you should like shout it out to the world and like hold yourself accountable. So by all means, you're like, I'm going to the O.
Yes,
exactly. So it's exciting too. And especially if you're listening to this and you have a goal that you've never told anyone, it's like you've been keeping it a secret. Guess what? It's really, really easy to slip on your goals if like no one knows about it.
Yes.
So I do think that there is some like being on podcasts like this and like telling the world like I'm going for this. It's good to put those vibes out there, because you never know, like someone might be able to help you and they might be listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, like maybe they run into you. So it's just a small world. Like competing is such a small world, which is weird just because like everyone travels for shows. So you might find someone backstage that maybe you were at a different show before and you didn't know, or as you compete, you're like, I saw you at this show, and now you're like, so it's a great world of competing. So I kind of wanted to like finish off our episode with just some life lessons. So what is the most important thing that you live your life by? Maybe like it doesn't have to be one, it could be like 1 to 3 different things that you would like to tell other competitors, like how to live their life, or just anyone listening to this.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It's a hard one.
That's a good one. Yeah. So I think I'm going to start with my I remember being in kindergarten in PE and my teacher preaching about the golden rule, which at the time I went to an elementary school where our colors were blue and gold. So I thought it was like the gold in our colors. But treating others the way that you want to be treated. I think there is so much to be said for just being a fucking nice human, not being catty, being inclusive. I think one of my favorite things about this sport is the people that I've met. Regardless of how nationals went, I had the most fun getting to know the girls on my team even better, spending time with Ashlyn, and just actually getting to know all of these people versus at my first show, I kind of kept to the girls that were just in my little group, and it's just so much more fun. These shows that I did were all in Arizona, so I'm sure that was a contributing factor. But a couple of the girls that had traveled on my team, they were like, "Dang, like everybody," and it's just because starting at every show that I've been at this year, any girl that I saw sitting by herself or, not when we were getting our makeup done and she was just like kind of on her phone, I'd be like, come over here, girl. Like, we're waiting too. And just being fucking friendly and having good sportsmanship. I think there's so much to be said for, being just nice and being real with people, because I think there's a lot of women in general who just are so ingenuine. And if anybody who knows me can verify this, I'm a terrible liar. So your girl is just honest regardless. But I think just being friendly and being nice and going out of your way a little bit to help the girl who's never been at a show before, whose coach maybe isn't there. Because I got that at my first show this year. My coach lives in Florida and kind of in Vegas as well, and she wasn't able to be at my first one. And so I got to know one of my teammates really, really well. And she was just so nice. And she had competed like way more than I had. And she was just so nice and so like answered any questions and was just hyping me up. One of my favorite things that she told me, I was just like talking about all day, like how nervous I was. And she was like, we don't say we're nervous. We
Yes.
say we're excited.
Yeah, that's
And
100% true.
and so I think, be fucking nice. And I really think that, just knowing that that motivation is going to be fleeting. There are going to be days that, you're not going to want to do your cardio, you're not going to want to do your lift, you're not going to want to eat all of your meals or whatever, but you're just going to do it anyway because you do have those fucking goals. And I am a very competitive person. So one of my favorite quotes is from Serena Williams, and she said, don't let anyone work harder than you do. And so on those days where my motivation is fleeting, I tell myself, whether I'm in my bed or whatever, all these other girls, they ain't sleeping, they ain't not skipping cardio. And so just knowing that you need to have all your ducks in a row and just execute to the best of your ability, because there's nothing worse than stepping on stage feeling like you're inadequate or feeling like you could have done more. There's just it's just a really shitty feeling. And going up there knowing that you did do all, you gave it everything that you freaking had, is just a really, really, really good feeling.
Okay. I think it's a perfect place to end. I thank you for coming on. I love talking with other amateurs on their journey to the pro stage. So
Yes, girl. Thank you so much for having me.
Hopefully we'll run into each other sometime next year.
Yes, I would love that.
All right, guys, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. I am so excited to share with you some discount codes to help support me and the podcast. So if you guys are looking to snatch the waist, I have a discount code. You can use code Savannah S at Squeeze Me Skinny to get your waist trainers. If you're competing soon and need some competition heels, I highly recommend the Shoe Fairy. You can use code Savannah at checkout to get 10% off. If you are looking for your next competition suit, I actually work for Angel Competition Bikinis as a suit specialist. I would love to help you design the suit of your dreams. You can book a consultation, and that is going to be in the notes of this episode. And you can also use code Savannah S as well to save 10% off on any purchases from Angel Competition Bikinis. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this platform. And then I also changed my Instagram handle. I am now at savsharp_. You can follow me on Instagram to stay up to date when I have more episodes. I love you guys so much. Thank you so freaking much for listening. I would love to hear your feedback on this episode. If you wouldn't mind jumping into my DMs. If you guys have any questions at all, I love doing Q&As. I'd love if you popped into my DMs on Instagram so I can answer some of your questions in a future episode. I can't wait for what we have in store. Next week, we'll get an update of what's been going on with me, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.